Well, good morning from London, good afternoon from Busan. We're publishing today a new report on developments in maritime finance and maritime financial centres, published jointly by ZN and the Busan Financial Centre. The report, which is available on our website this morning, focuses on developments in maritime finance, including emerging fintech applications and new derivatives, but also the focus required by the shipping industry on net zero and the financing options that are required to help the industry move forward. I'm delighted to welcome this morning, first of all, colleagues from Busan Finance Centre, and we'll be hearing in a moment some welcome remarks from Ms. Jessica Mee Park, who will add her welcome. And to introduce our two speakers today, Simon Mills, a senior consultant here at ZN, who's the author of our report, and Professor Hee-Sung Yoon, who's Dean of the Graduate School of Maritime Finance at the National Korea Maritime and Ocean University. You probably know me, I'm Mike Wardle, I'm today's chair from ZN, chief executive here, and my job today is to moderate the session, and in particular to moderate the questions and answers that we'll have time for after we hear from our speakers. You can raise questions on the GoToWebinar system by typing your questions and thoughts into the questions tab on the dashboard on your screen. And you can do that at any point during the webinar. So if something strikes you, you don't have to wait for the Q&A session to put your question in. Please keep your questions coming during the session. We will be recording today's webinar. So if you find it particularly interesting and want to go back and hear it again, or if you have friends and colleagues who you think might be interested, the recording will be available and be posted on our website in a couple of days' time. So that'll be available for you as well. And of course, the report is available to download from our website this morning. That's all by the way of my brief introduction, I think. And I would like to invite Jessica Park from Busan Finance Centre to add her welcome remarks.
Okay. Good morning and good evening. Okay, I'm Jessica Park, Director of the Busan Financial Center, BFC. First, we'd like to extend our sincere thanks to Mr. Mike Waddle and Mr. Simon Mills for your valuable contribution to completing the report. This document is really important as it set out the path for Busan to become a major maritime financial center in East Asia. Right now, with everything moving online and a big focus on cutting carbon emissions in the maritime industry, there are a lot of challenges to tackle worldwide. To handle this crucial moment well, we need to take a quick action through research projects and changing laws and putting new policies in place and coming up with innovative financial ideas. In line with this global need, ZNN's latest report offers a wide range of ideas and plans to strengthen maritime finance in Busan, South Korea. By making the most of financial technology and specialized finance product, this report provides a strong base for sustainable growth in Busan's maritime financial sector. This report is not just for people in the industry. It is also set to strengthen the collaborations between the Busan Finance Center and the GNN, both well-respected names in maritime circles. As Busan becomes more established as a top maritime finance hub in the area, this report will drive innovation and partnerships in the sector. Thank you, and thank you for all attending the webinar for today.
Thank you very much for those kind words of welcome and setting the scene. And I'd now like to invite Simon Mills, the author of today's report, to give an overview of the findings. Over to you, Simon.
Thank you, Mike. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and good afternoon in Busan. My name is Simon Mills. I'm the Senior Consultant at the ZN Group, and I'm going to take you through some of the key findings of our research into maritime finance centres. Next slide, please. Before I begin, I must say a few words about Zien. We're the City of London's leading financial services think tank. We focus on the nexus between society, finance and technology, and we draw on a library of highly skilled experts who help us deliver research and services for the public, private and voluntary sector. Our not-for-profit programs include Long Finance, which asks the question, when would we know that our financial system is working? And it also publishes a range of indices designed to reveal the competitiveness of the world's financial centres. Next slide, please. Now, I'm afraid that I only have limited time to give the shallowest of overviews of the report today. There is a great deal of information packed into its 82 pages, and I would urge you to download it and peruse it at your leisure. This was an absolutely fascinating project to work on because of the vital importance of this sector to the global economy. The global merchant fleet has more than doubled in size over the last 40 years. It's responsible for supporting around 90% of the global commodity trade and contributes over $380 billion to the global economy from freight rates alone. And, next slide please, when you add in activities such as shipbuilding, port terminal fees and financial services such as broking, finance and insurance, the sector is worth more than $14 trillion per annum. Next slide, please. Now, interestingly, the locus of this activity has shifted steadily westwards over the last 5 millennia in a phenomenon known as the West Line. The pace of this drift has accelerated rapidly over the last 100 years or so. So perhaps by the end of the century, we're going to see the rapid expansion of maritime activity in India and East Africa. There's more information on the key locations for maritime activity in the report. Next slide, please. However, it is obvious to those who work in the maritime sector that despite its vital importance, it's often neglected by politicians and the public, possibly because it happens out of the public gaze at sea or in offices or in secure area ports. Yet maritime centres contribute enormous amounts of value to national economies, driving investment, jobs and demand. There's even evidence that nations with thriving maritime financial centres have actually got a higher GDP than those who do not. Next slide, please. So, what are the factors that predicate success for a maritime finance centre and the financial services that it supports? Now, obviously, clustering is essential. This is the geographical concentration of interconnected companies, specialised suppliers, service providers, firms in related industries and associated institutions such as universities, standards agencies and trade associations that allow these organisations to compete but also cooperate. Supporting these organisations, there must be strong local government and effective regulatory agencies that engage and work with maritime organisations in order to deliver effective services and infrastructure. It's vital to remember that although maritime financial centres have historic status of ports, past success is no guarantee of continuing relevance. Venice lost its crown by losing a war. Liverpool failed to invest. New Orleans was rendered obsolete by the new technology of the railway. A centre cannot rest on its laurels. And if you note this picture here, this is Busan Port, where a multi-million-dollar investment has taken place in autonomous freight vehicles. So perhaps this is the future. Next slide, please. But what about the financial services that support all this activity? Well, the criteria for success for both financial services and maritime financial services are broadly similar. There needs to be a clustering of related financial services, an enabling business environment, effective infrastructure, and readily available human capital. This is important as maritime finance is a specialist field, and this means that Smaller, more nimble centres can actually outcompete larger centres in providing high-value legal, financial, insurance and brokerage services. Next slide, please. So what are the key challenges which are facing the maritime sector at the moment? Well, let's start with finance. Buying a vessel is expensive. In March 2023, the Swiss-based private shipping firm MSC took delivery of the ultra-large container vessel, the MSC Tessa. Built at the Shangjing shipyard in Shanghai, this vessel is part of a 4-ship leasing deal estimated to have cost in excess of $600 million. Now, obviously, this is the top end, but even the price of second-hand handy-sized carriers has soared since the pandemic. Unfortunately, the maritime sector is subject to extreme volatility in demand. The cost of bunker fuel, access to shipping routes, and the state of the global economy all have a major effect on demand and profitability. After the 2008 financial crisis, banks became risk averse, and as a result, they've scaled back exposure or withdrawn completely from ship finance. This having been said, European banks still hold a 49% share of the global market, and Asian and Australian bank share has increased to 44%. However, the end result of this risk aversion is that much traditional financing has been replaced by convertible debt, private equity, bonds, and sale and leaseback agreements. Interestingly, one factor that has gained in significance over the last few years is the issue of ESG performance. Now, this is covered in more detail in the report, but suffice to say, there are new profitable opportunities for maritime financial centres to explore products such as green bonds, sustainability-linked bonds, and sustainability-linked loans to meet the demand for finance in this sector. Next slide, please. Speaking of opportunities, it's evidence that the maritime finance sector has been relatively slow to grasp the opportunities of fintech. In part, this might be because fintech platforms are of more utility to smaller ship owners. Large ship owners can find cheaper money through listings or bonds. However, there have been some very exciting developments in the blockchain tokenization of real-world assets. These platforms transform marine assets into digital assets which can be traded publicly. Now, this is significant because it allows fractional ownership, allowing small investors to spread risk and potentially bringing in a new source of finance to the sector. Next slide, please. Now, before we move on, I really need to address the elephant in the room. Transactions in the maritime sector are slow and expensive. They often require the transfer of physical documentation passing through the hands of several intermediaries. Processing and administration costs can be as much as 20% of cargo fees. Enormous efficiencies could be realized through the use of blockchain technology, and we examine some of the issues holding back the introduction of fintech in the report. Suffice to say, addressing this area would be as revolutionary to the sector as when Malcolm McLean introduced the shipping container back in 1956. Next slide, please. Moving on, we were surprised to find just how deeply the issue of climate change and carbon management has impacted the maritime sector. I'm sure you're all aware of how climate change exacerbated drought in Panama has impacted on the capacity of the Panama Canal, with knock-on effects for shipping worldwide. However, the impacts of climate change policies and the drive towards net zero have a deeper impact across the sector. This has got two aspects in terms of direct emissions and in terms of cargo. With respect to the first, the IMO has introduced a suite of standards and regulations concerning efficiency and emissions, which have got significant implications for market access, vessel value, access to finance, fleet composition, speed of fleet renewal, and technological innovation. We deal with all of these in the report, but it is worth dwelling on the issue of stranded assets for a moment. As a result of these regulations, older, less efficient vessels will have to be scrapped or refitted, which is a boon for the shipbuilding industry and research and development. However, if you're a ship owner, the value of your company is almost entirely held in the vessels that you own. If your vessels are no longer able to dock at European ports, or clients no longer wish to charter them as their carbon emissions breach regulations, their value will crash, as will the value of your firm, making it harder to refinance. Moving on to cargo, the jury is still out as to when the hydrogen economy will take off, but it is likely that hydrogen transportation will rise to become as important as oil transportation, with significant implications for both fleet composition and portside infrastructure. For maritime financial centres, it's worth thinking about when hydrogen will become a traded commodity and putting infrastructure in place to steal a march on your competitors. And so we move on to our conclusions. Next slide, please. The first is fairly self-evident. Maritime financial centres are generally located in port cities. Port cities function as both ports and cities. The port and its host city are codependent. So effective governance and investment in infrastructure are critical. The health of a maritime financial centre is dependent on the ease of establishing a business and the legal constraints and protections surrounding it, the availability of skilled personnel, the availability of appropriate premises, access to information technology, and the cost of funds relative to other locations. Although the ease of access to customers can be modified by communications and information technology, ultimately the cluster effect remains essential. Next slide, please. In order to remain relevant, maritime financial centres must embrace the challenge of financing the maritime industry. They must work with stakeholders in the financial services sector to identify the obstacles and opportunities associated with developing new financial products for ship owners. They must embrace the challenge of net zero. In particular, they must collaborate to navigate an effective course through this undertaking, whilst competing to find new products and services which will enhance their reputations and attract new business. And they must embrace technological advancements by working together to develop commonly agreed standards in fintech and digitalization, which will allow the rollout of this technology globally. Next slide, please. Now, finally, in the course of this research, we found two very interesting areas which lay outside the scope of this study, which would benefit from further investigation. The first is the issue of fleet bifurcation. The US and Europe have made increasing use of sanctions as a means of projecting foreign policy. These sanctions cover a range of trading nations, particularly Russia and Iran, and affect vessels which dock at ports, making intership transfers or carrying goods from affected countries. Vessels breaking these sanctions violate the terms of their insurance and are unable to dock at European or US ports. However, a grey fleet is emerging, which, although primarily involving older, smaller vessels, may actually be as large as 18% of the global fleet. These vessels flout IMO regulations by disabling their automatic identification systems, they employ location hiding technologies, and they engage in location falsification in order to break sanctions. Analysis of the implications of this trend and recommendations on how to counter them might actually be a useful area for further investigation. Now, secondly, coming back to the issue of carbon, there's been a great deal of attention paid to the carbon emissions of the global merchant fleet. However, the geographical location of certain forms of manufacturing industry, which are near natural resources or manufactured resources or draw on low carbon energy sources, may actually result in a net carbon saving that outweigh the carbon emissions of sea transportation. Although this flies in the face of the current trend for deglobalization, further research could actually examine whether there is a carbon accounting case to be made for maritime finance. Thank you very much for your time this morning. I believe that the report is now available for download. Thank you, Mike.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Simon, for that overview of the content of the report. We've put into the chat a link to the download where you can grab a copy of the report to go into it in more detail. But I'd now like to invite Professor Hee-Seung Yoon, the Dean of the Graduate School of Maritime Finance at the National Korea Maritime and Ocean University, to add his thoughts and commentary on the report and the issues facing maritime finance. Over to you, Professor Yoon.
Okay, thank you. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. I will make a kind of verbal presentation. Sorry for not being able to make a PPT presentation, but I think you can follow what I'm saying. Before I move on, I'll briefly introduce myself. I have worked for shipping industry for over 25 years. And then I joined KMI. KMI is a kind of public research institute for government maritime policy. And about 4 years ago, I joined KMOU, the National Korea Maritime and Ocean University, and I'm now heading the Graduate School of Maritime Finance. I'm supposed to make some comments on ZN's research reports, but honestly, I don't have much to say because the report is well organized and it has got wide coverage, including shipping market, freight derivatives, fintech, decarbonization, and digitalization. Quite understandably, it didn't dig deeply into every topic, but I believe that it is quite effective in covering the topics for us and for Busan. If the report can be topped up with successive research, I would like to have some more practical suggestions for Busan. Instead of making some comments on your reports, I'd like to add some more, some kind of personal points on Busan Finance Center. My presentation consists of 4 parts. The first part is Busan's stance in Korea. The second is Busan's endowments. Endowments meaning attractiveness. And the third part is going to be why Busan has to go for maritime finance. And the last bit is what is needed for the future. The identity of Busan is quite multifaceted because the central government designated Busan as a finance center together with Seoul. So it has got identity of finance center, and the Busan metropolitan government, they said they actually declared Busan as a kind of maritime capital in the Far East. And sorry. I forgot to mute my phone. Sorry about that. Busan is also a blockchain specialized zone. And additionally, Busan is aiming for opportunity development specialized zone for the maritime finance sector. Then I move on to Busan's endowments, which is, I said, the attraction of Busan. Busan has got well-developed maritime industry. We have world's leading shipping yards. Shipping yards are well supported by equipment industry. And we have got large Busan ports And Busan boasts of one of the largest ship management clusters in the world. In the end, Busan is already an established maritime center. In Korea, about 3/4 of Korean maritime industry is accumulated in the southeastern part of the Korean peninsula. We also have financial institutions accumulated in Busan, mainly policy financial institutions, meaning public government-run financial institutions. We have got Integrated Maritime Finance Center, which is co-established by KDB, KEXIM, and K-SURE. We have got KEMCO, KOBC, and quite recently, government decided to move the headquarters of KDB to Busan. And we have some other finance-related institutions, such as Korea Exchange, KSD, Kibo, and HAK. And the cultural aspect is another thing that Busan is taking pride in. The cultural depth in Korea is well recognized in the world. And on top of that, these days, Korean culture, say K culture, is quite popular in the world. We have got well-established infrastructure. ICT is one of the most advanced in the world. We have got good transportation system. Then the settlement conditions for foreigners are excellent. Korea is quite safe, a safe country, and Busan is no exception. And we have got very good level of medical services, foreign schools. And Busan has got educational institutions, 3 national universities, including KMOU. And we have got Graduate School of Maritime Finance, which is quite unique in Asia. And other maritime-related research institutions are Korea Maritime Institutes, kiosks, and we have got Korea Register of Shipping in Busan. Then I'll move on to why Busan has to go for maritime finance. First of all, as Simon mentioned, maritime field is ever growing, which is coincided by 2D in the maritime industry, and 2D stands for digitalization and decarbonization. Firstly, decarbonization. Research shows that hundreds of billions of dollars, or even several trillion dollars are needed to respond to environmental regulations, mainly imposed by IMO. And my research shows that Korea only needs about 100 billion US dollars to replace all the existing vessels to net zero new building ships by 2050. In the area of digitalization, the fourth industrial revolution is dramatically changing the industry landscape. Say, big data, AI, and blockchain is widely applied to the shipping industry, resulting in maritime autonomous surface ship, cargo tracing system, and other devices to enhance safety and efficiency and energy saving. In the way of responding to 2D changes, the finance is playing a critical role. 2D requires huge investments. As I said previously with Simon, there is a funding gap. People in the shipping and ship finance industry are talking about funding gap, meaning we need a lot of capital to respond to the environmental regulations, but traditional financial institutions cannot cope with the requirements. So there must be some innovative solutions. And I think Busan is well prepared to respond to the changes and devise a lot of different type of innovative solutions. Anyway, to answer to the question why Busan has to go for maritime finance, it seems to be inevitable with the endowments, with the changes, with the shipping industry, with the shipbuilding industry, with the ports, and with the blockchain developments, with fourth industrial revolution technologies that we have in Korea. Then what do we have to do in the future? Some topics, most of the topics were covered in the ZN reports. I will try to add some more to the reports. Basically, Busan need to respond to the changes. My keywords for the response is convergence. I thought about 5 areas of convergence. The first one is the AI and finance. The second one is the convergence of blockchain and finance. The third one is fintech and finance. The fourth one is ESG and finance. The last one is shipping derivatives and finance. I will briefly explain all the 5 topics. AI can make maritime and maritime finance industry a lot healthier by means of enabling the forecasting the defaults and or bankruptcy of the borrowers. And AI technology can be adopted to forecast shipping markets, which is enhancing the visibility of the ship financiers and shipping players. And AI technology can be used to enhance efficiency through optimization of equipment operation. In Korea, in Busan, KMI, Korea Maritime Institute, and other research institutions are making a good contribution in this respect. The second point is blockchain and finance. If you think about the blockchain, the natural development is the application of STO to the shipping finance. Security token offering. Ships are quite expensive assets. Even small, simple vessels require tens of millions of dollars per vessel. Because it's expensive, the general public cannot approach ship finance directly. STO is a kind of innovative mechanism to make the fractional ownership of the vessel possible. That is quite effective in solving the accessibility problems. The fintech and finance convergence is another way of mechanism to solve that accessibility problem. I believe that there are many different types and approaches to the fintech that can be utilized in finance, but I emphasize the potential of metaverse to be utilized in either shipping or generally finance. The ESG, the convergence of ESG and finance is quite interesting and quite important because of the environmental regulations and the environmental concerns of the general public. The green finance, sustainability-linked finance, and transition finance is all tried and tested in the shipping industry. And I believe that Busan is in a position to expand ESG-related finance backed by the shipbuilding capabilities, well-developed shipping industries, and the fourth industrial technologies that Korea has. The last point is the convergence of shipping, derivatives, and finance. Busan is thinking about establishing derivatives exchange. And in this area, KOBC is working on publishing shipping indices to complement the existing Baltic indices. And if the indices is functioning, then we can actually activate the derivatives market, and derivatives exchange can play an important role in the finance center. And the other thing that is important is margin call finance, because basically, the tools that is used in the shipping industry is FFAs. FFAs stand for forward freight agreements. It's forward agreements. Basically, forward agreement is, say, over-the-counter transaction and not cleared. But because of the credit risk emerged since the collapse of the market in 2009, most of the FFA transactions are cleared. The clearance system requires margin call finance, and Busan and other financial institutions playing in Busan Maritime Center can provide margin call finance to the shipping industry. And the other thing that I thought about is quite a difficult concept, but we have to think about the tokenization of shipping derivatives, which is a mixture of blockchain technology and shipping derivatives and finance. I thought about option selling, which is suffering from lack of liquidity, and the tokenization, I believe, is quite effective in solving the liquidity problems. There are some other issues that Busan needs to pay attention. The first one is we need to invite more global shipping companies and global commercial banks and financial institutions to Busan. To do that, Busan and the central government needs to provide more incentives, like in Singapore. And the second point is we need to go global more than now, meaning we need to make kind of environment more, say, alien-friendly Busan. uh, it is quite complicated efforts because not one institution can provide that sort of environment. We need a kind of collaborated efforts to achieve true global business environment in Busan. As you know, not everything that I mentioned is executed in Busan, but Busan is working on it, and the future of Busan will be quite different from now in the future. Thank you for your participation in the seminar, and thank you for your attention. That's it.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Professor Yun. And I'm sure everyone will be looking to see how successfully Busan takes forward some of the ideas that you have been talking about as we go forward. We do have a short time for questions and comments. And Alexander Dmitrenko has asked, he comes from a company called CPay, who's been building a banking and software solutions for the maritime industry. And the issue that he faces is compliance in the international panorama, and just ask, are there ways to start developing global financial systems that would supersede and normalize multiple local jurisdictions and create a worldwide maritime financial connecting tissue? Simon, do you want to have a go at that one?
My goodness, that's a big question. Yes, it would be lovely to have borderless finance and seamless transactions and to create global systems for this type of financial product. However, local jurisdictions fiercely defend their independence, and for good reasons. You need to ensure that you do due diligence, that you know the customer that you're dealing with, etc. I think that it is unlikely, because of this, that there is going to be at any time in the near future a body set up with international jurisdiction which would be able to impose its will on different regulatory regimes. This having been said, the way forward is for financial centres to collaborate. If they have a memorandum of understanding or treaties which enable cross-border trade, that is one way of addressing the issue, but it would be piecemeal. It certainly wouldn't be a system that could be imposed globally.
Well, thank you very much for that. We've got quite a few questions to get through, so we're going to ask you for a very short commentary. Con Keating's asked to expand on the question of tokenization of marine assets. And really, is this likely to provide meaningful investment opportunities? We've seen some examples of it, and just wonder, Professor Yun, whether you've got an insight about whether tokenization is going to provide a good market for investment.
The tokenization has been tried and tested in many different areas in the world. Then the thing is, like in Korea, a lot of startups are trying to go for STOs for ship investments, but as in many other countries, Korean government is quite stubborn in keeping the regulatory framework, the existing regulatory framework that has been applied to the security market for a long period of time. That is the main hurdle, and the government is slowly changing their standing points. And I don't know whether it's going to be in the near future or in the future. anyway, I think the gate will be open slowly, because the benefit is there. General public can be access to the ship investments, and in a way, because of the funding gap that I mentioned, that sort of innovative solutions can be the only solution that we have in the future.
And I think it's also worth adding that this would just be one way that a ship owner can raise finance. It's already happening. Shipfinex.com, which is based in London, has already developed a platform, and TMC Shipping has become the first company to actually tokenize its assets on Shipfinex. So they obviously think it's worth doing. I know that other nations, including Busan, are looking at this avenue. There is a startup in Busan called buysellstandards.com, which is beginning to put the building blocks in place to emulate this type of platform. I think it will be added to the panoply of funding options that ship owners have.
Thank you very much. Simon, a couple of questions I'm going to direct to you from Nikki Holzhausen. First of all, what effect does shipping have on marine life, and which laws govern these impacts and how they're affected, or is that still a developing area? But the second question also is the question of energy intensity of blockchain technology. So really the environmental impact of shipping in the round. Do you want to just give a very brief commentary on those? I know it's a big topic, I know, but...
Okay, right. It is a very big topic. The IMO has a suite of regulations with regards to managing the impacts of shipping on. That's the International Maritime Organization has a suite of regulations and standards regarding shipping impact on biodiversity. It was out of scope of this particular report, but there are a great deal of online assets that you can use to examine this further. With regards to the energy intensity of blockchain, it is important not to conflate blockchain with Bitcoin. Blockchain is a system, Bitcoin is a product, and Bitcoin is very energy intensive indeed, but there are other blockchain systems available. Ethereum has a far lower carbon footprint than blockchain, something like 90% lower, and indeed Zien has its own proprietary system, ChainZ, which is lower than both of these. So don't conflate blockchain with Bitcoin. Blockchain is the system, and Bitcoin is a product. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're increasing carbon emissions by using blockchain systems for various aspects of marine finance and maritime activity.
Ian Stewart asked a question which maybe is beyond the scope, I think, of the report, but have we got any view about how the G7 sanctions are likely to play out with so many attempts to bust the sanctions by the shadow fleet? Any thoughts on how...
Mike, you'll like this one. My view is that if you commission us, we'll do some research for you.
Very good answer.
There's all sorts of speculation as to how this could be addressed, and it goes from enhanced naval patrols to one of the madder things I've seen is bringing back privateers. So you actually allow private companies to attack these ships without sanction. So yeah, there are all sorts of mad ideas out there as to how to address it.
Thank you very much. Alexander Dimitrenko has also asked, is there a STO platform that offers part ownership and investment in ships that's currently operating in Asia? We've heard a bit about ShipFinex, and but are there tokenization offers that are specifically focused on Asia that we found at the moment?
There are. Hold on, I'm just trying to remember the names of some of them. There's eShip Finance, Oceanus.io, Infinity Maritime. Singapore's your friend with this. Have a look at what Singapore's doing. I'm sure Busan will be hot on their heels, but I couldn't find any examples from Busan at the moment. So I think that's an area to look at.
Thank you very much. And a last question, because we are running out of time. Nikki Holzhausen has asked whether Professor Yun could give any further details on Busan's innovative solutions to finance in this area. So you've run over some of the things that you're hoping will take place. Is there anything else you'd like to add on how Busan is going to innovate in this area?
Yeah, actually, the maritime finance, especially ship finance, is more and more of ship finance is covered by policy financial institutions, Exim banks, Korea Development Banks, and Chinese lease financing. And the first thing that the industry has to solve is how to make shipping industry more attractive to the commercial financial institutions. That's the first thing that we have to try. And the second thing is the adoption of innovative technologies. As you said, STOs and other type of the technology, adoption of the technology for ship finance.
Well, thank you very much indeed. We are, I'm afraid, have run out of time, and it's a tribute to the interest that you've generated through the report and your comments today that we've had so many questions and engagement from our audience. So it just remains for me to, first of all, thank Busan Finance Center for sponsoring the research and for joining with us in publishing the report today. We've got some events coming up you might be interested in. Tomorrow, a session on how pollinator friendly is the City of London. Next Wednesday, how air pollution causes lung cancer in never smokers. So some really different and interesting topics coming up. But some further thanks. As I've mentioned, Busan Finance Center, Jessica and the team really are grateful for your support in this work and look forward to continuing our partnership. Professor Yun, it's been a delight to have you with us today and to hear your commentary on Busan and its future in this particular area of maritime finance, and very good luck with those developments going forward. And finally, Simon, thank you so much for your contribution today, but also for the work you've done in putting this together. Many thanks to all and for attending, and we look forward to seeing you again at future events. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.